journalism, how this current war is being covered and how it's being reported on and the sort of public information that the American people get? Is this a sort of critical test of the credibility of US journalism?
I think definitely. Yeah, but I'm not sure how much credibility U.S. journalism really has, given that let's see, 5 years we lost 2 presidents and 1 civil rights leader to mysterious bums and assassins, bushy-haired strangers. And U.S. journalism has never dug out the truth about that. One of my great shames as a journalist is that I still don't know who killed Jack Kennedy. And it's always bothered me. It's always haunted me. And there's no doubt that I don't know. And there's not much doubt that journalism in general does not know. And in a lot of ways, that may be because maybe we haven't asked. I mean, when I say asked, I mean, the people who, most of the witnesses were killed, weren't they?
But does that need for certainty, is that what underpins your critique, that US journalism has failed to provide in your life the key answers to the key events that you needed answered?
Well, I would say that, and I would include myself. And I've worked as hard as anybody. The rules really changed in this country when Reagan came in and started these test invasions of other small nations, and when they decided to test the policy of no more battlefield access for any journalist. In Vietnam, it was totally different, and that's why we got that war ended. But I covered Grenada, and that's in this book too. And you could see it forming right there. I'd never seen it before. I'd never seen journalists beaten up by military police and hog-tied in the middle of the road. I'd never had to... I'd always had a press pass and access. But no, when the military, the Pentagon, really, that's when they seized the advantage and never gave it up. The military still is not allowing anybody else to know what's happening in Afghanistan or wherever they're fighting. It's always press releases or staged events.
Hunter S. Thompson, do you think that the so-called gonzo style of journalism for which you've become famous, and some would say notorious, do you think that there is a specific legacy that what makes that type of journalism work makes it more necessary at the moment? Well,
I've never properly defined that term even to myself.
What do you think it does mean?
Well, from my point of view, it means being very skeptical of what the pronouncements of authority, and that as a gambler, I would say it's better than even that if you question the statements and truths of the White House and the government, that more often than not you'll be right, and that I just try to get as close to the what I'm writing about as possible in order to find out what's really happening. And a lot of times it's weirder than it appears in my stories. The truth is usually stranger than fiction, at least in my life.
Hunter Thompson, will you be at home watching the commemoration programs on the 11th of September? Will you be among the audience, which I imagine will number tens of millions of people who watch what happens in New York?
That's a good point. That's a good question. And, it's soon, isn't it? No, I won't. I think I'll grab Anita and take a road trip. We'll just go off and have a little fun. Why sit around and watch that stuff? Now, what I'm afraid of, is that that's going to be a cover for a sudden move on Iraq. That little monster will come on TV and say, today I can't say Allied forces, or I can't say coalition forces anymore. You'll have to say, today we invaded Iraq. Now, this seems so impossible that I'd be happy to lose money on it, if I bet on it. But it seems too logical for that kind of Texas thug mindset that this is the time to do it. I can't think of a better time if I was going to do it, put it that way.
Because the nation's effectively distracted by the commemorations in New York, that it's almost like saying, quick, while no one's really paying attention, let's invade another country.
Exactly. And it's so cynical and so stupid and so self-defeating in the long run that you'd think that nobody in their right mind, no president, would plunge us into a war like that with no allies and around really the other side of the world.
Just out of interest, I mean, for these comments to be broadcast on Radio National in Australia, which is part of the ABC, part of the public broadcasting network, it occurs to me that you probably wouldn't hear those sort of comments on many other outlets. In America, voice to your conspiracy theories about the role of the US government?
Well, I definitely will be when this book comes out in December. Now, unfortunately, we're going to have that election up here in November. And that's going to be an extremely key election, a time to, if you care about this country, to really vote. And I've been working on this book for so long, I feel like I've been in a decompression chamber of some kind.
So obviously these very critical views will appear in your book. I suppose what I'm interested in asking is, where else would people hear views like yours? I know they're coming out later in the year in your book, but across the US media, radio and television and print, where would people be now hearing these very critical comments such as the ones you've been making?
Where else, eh? Where indeed? I know a lot of journalists across the country who would agree with me, but now whether they're writing this stuff and saying it in public, I don't know. You could ask Maureen Dowd and see what she feels whether I'm right or wrong. But I can't really tell you anybody else. Doesn't come to mind. And it really is lonely out here.
Hunter S. Thompson, just as a final question, and look, it's a big question, but let me ask it anyway. I mean, how do you see, from your position as a critic on the left of American journalism, how do you see the future of journalism in your country?
Well, I have a very dim view of it, I guess. Yeah, the future of journalism, which I really thought was unbounded after Watergate. But right now, there's not a hell of a lot of reason to be optimistic about it, because of the not just this one huge scam they pulled off here, but because of the everyday reality of journalism is celebrity-driven. The news over here barely covers. I watched some BBC stuff and then some CNN foreign news, world news that doesn't get into the country. I read the Paris Herald Tribune. That kind of news doesn't get through in this country. Now, you have to read the New York Times very carefully and to maybe see what they're talking about, but I don't think my views would be seen as crazy or absurd or out of the question in most countries of the world.
Do you ever worry, given the current climate in the United States and the surge of patriotism that's going on, that you could be personally at risk from someone who took offence at your critique, that your own personal security might be threatened?
Yeah, think about it. Definitely it could be true. Maybe, Joel.
Have there been occurrences when you've been threatened?
Oh, yeah, I'm constantly, I have been all my life, but not, back out in journalism, that goes with the territory. There's going to be threats, and there's going to be people who are very unhappy. And knock, knock, I don't think it's a matter of luck. It's a matter I'm pretty well stuck to my battle plan. And, they tried to come after me. The federal government, all kinds of governments. I've had constant wars in courts. I have to keep like 4 of the finest criminal lawyers in the country on retainer. Yeah, you have to fight for these rights in this country. They didn't come in on any, the stork didn't bring the Bill of Rights. A lot of people fought for it.
So that's how you'd see yourself, as fighting for freedom of speech in America?
Absolutely.